right, we are recording though, and everything is coming through nicely. I think on Facebook. Hello, everybody. Cool. All right, preach. Do your thing, bro.
All right. 1 2 1 2, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Thank you guys for joining us as we finish this final event supporting Sundance in the Carolinas. This is the We Did That panel. I go by the name of Preach Jacobs. You might have seen me do my little DJ sets before some of the movies called the Loft Sessions. We're just wrapping things up, and we're speaking to some of the producers and some of the partners that were involved with the festival coming here in South Carolina. And I think in order to get started, I want everyone to introduce themselves. So Curtis, let's start with you.
Cool, thank you, Preach. My name is Curtis Caesar John. I'm the founder of the Luminal Theater, the nomadic micro cinema that produced this event.
Who we got next? Drew?
Jacqui, I believe.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's all good.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqui Brown. I work with Curtis of the Luminal Theater as one of his programmers.
Sashawna, you're next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sashawna Donaldson. I am a programmer with the Luminal Theater.
Next.
I think I'm next.
You next.
My name is Andrew Gajadhar. I am a producer, PGA producer. I run a international film festival called Freedom Festival International, and I am the executive director of Carolina Film Network and Picture Media Group in PMG Studios.
I think Travis is next.
Hi, my name is Travis Pearson. I'm a filmmaker out of Charleston, South Carolina, and also the founder of the social media news group called The Black Collective.
Oliver.
Hi, I'm Oliver Crooms. I'm the founder of the Carolina Film Festival, and I'm very happy to be here with y'all.
All right, next we have Christopher.
Hey everyone, my name is Christopher Everett, and I'm the president of Speller Street Films. I'm a film director and film producer. I'm also the co-founder of Black Docs.
And finally, we have Trey.
Good evening, all. My name is Trey Mcgriff. I'm the executive director of the CineOdyssey Film Festival, going into our 5th year out of Charlotte, and glad to be here this evening.
All right. Well, this is awesome. Anytime there's an opportunity to be around a bunch of Black creatives, I think is really, really important. And I think the first question is for Curtis. I'm wondering, how did we get Sundance to come to South Carolina? and was it intentional for you to make sure that it was a Carolina event, not just a South Carolina event?
Yeah, thank you, Preach. Well, as far as Sundance coming to South Carolina, so Sundance had, obviously with the pandemic happening, Sundance wanted to extend their reach and do different things in different places. They knew they were going to do a virtual festival, but they still wanted to be able to connect with the people and do things in a live fashion. And so, they extended that invitation to a number of art houses and film organizations and such. And, just by being in contact with them throughout the years and staffers there, they were aware of the work that the Luminal does. They were aware that we were newly in South Carolina and had already been doing a lot of great community stuff, in particular our drive-ins that we do, reaching specific, especially Black populations here in northeast part of Columbia, South Carolina, where I'm at right now. And so they asked us, do we want to do it? Do we want to be involved? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Spoke to my team, of course, and then said, yeah, absolutely. And then I did see like on the final list, once everyone was like fully decided, that there was no representation in North Carolina. And, you know, from being here and knowing how closely that a lot of South Carolina organizations work with North Carolina film organizations as well, for me, it was a no-brainer to extend the invitation across the Carolinas, since, you know, our relationships are so close and we're always working on building even closer relationships with each other. So, you know, it just made sense. For me, it just made sense to do. And I already knew great brothers like Trey and Oliver doing work out there, and other people as well, of course, and all the great people here in South Carolina arts scene just doing fantastic work. So yeah, that's what we did.
I guess this question is for everyone next, is, you know, being an artist, being able to have certain entities like highlight and validate the things that you're doing. What are some of the things for everyone that particularly was something that was the favorite part about the festival as far as your craft and your art is concerned? Because I know being an artist, especially in the Carolinas, you know, we talk about a lot of times not having a lot of opportunities, and a lot of times, especially, you know, Black voices speaking about a lot of things that might have Black content. It could be an uphill battle. So what are some of the things with the festival that were great, pleasant surprises, and what were some of the challenges dealing with the festival during the pandemic that might have occurred?
Well, I can speak on something that I really, really enjoyed thoroughly, which was the fact that all of these creatives came together. Even from our first panel discussion that we had with other creatives that are in the Carolinas in general, you know, just being able to highlight some of the work that they've done, some of the things that we didn't even really know were here, you know, in the Carolinas and stuff like that. Like, it's a pleasant surprise. I always feel like it's a pleasant surprise to see, you know, all of us on the same page and all of us continuously being involved in the work that we do, but also in the community. So, you know, just specifically being able to just open that dialogue with other creatives is just, that to me was the highlight of my whole experience here. Because it's one thing doing programming, it's one thing, you know, running our own productions and things like that, but to be able to just get all these great minds in the same room and just speak on it and speak on our own experiences and see how similar they are, and just the work that we want to see done here and the work that we're already pushing, and just collaborative efforts all together. Like, it's just, to me, that was a really good highlight.
I think
anybody else want to touch on that one?
Yeah, I think, man, just, you know, having the opportunity, you know, to have like a, you know, a piece of Sundance, you know, in the Carolinas, you know, I think that was cool. I wish I was able to get down to Columbia to check out some of the, you know, the film screenings, but just having the opportunity to showcase some of that work, you know, from Sundance I thought it was pretty amazing. You know, just some of the folks that I know that attended some of the screenings, they loved it. And also having the opportunity to do some creative programming as well, you know, was very dope as well. I love the Redefining Carolina panel a lot, you know, and just seeing like what Andrew was saying, you know, just seeing all of us, a lot of folks, you know, come together, you know, and just be on one page and just chop it up. And hopefully we can continue that. And I think that's what this kind of started as well, man, of just this continuation of us, of future collaboration, you know, from all of us.
Yeah, I think it got stopped for me for a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, was someone else speaking?
I just wanted to say something else. For me, it was really, and I think I said this in our first or second meeting, that it was really about also Sundance kind of acting as an umbrella for us to do the things that we should have already been doing anyway.
Absolutely.
Right? So and mind you, I'm not sitting here acting like, you know, I'm the first person at the Luminal's first organization to help try to unite what's going on in the Carolinas. Andrew's been doing that work, although and CFN has been doing that work. Other organizations have been doing it over the years. A lot of great creatives here in both states, but it kind of gave us an excuse to like get even more emboldened to do some more things. So it's like under this big thing that's going to get this attention from the press. It's going to get this attention from other organizations throughout the United States and the world. So why not, do this under a united front as opposed to just, this is this one organization trying to do this all. No, it's about, filmmaking is about community anyway, right? It's about bringing all these forces together, all these people together, all these creatives together to do real work and make something that's potent and memorable. And so for me, it just makes sense to connect with other filmmakers, to connect with other organizations who are already doing great work and who are supportive of other filmmakers already and who are supportive of other artists and arts communities already, and build that great universe of creatives to make this happen. So yeah.
I think it's always great when we're talking about being in a city or being in areas that aren't necessarily the stereotypical hotspots, right? So like, I'm a hip hop artist, so like we're always told, go to Atlanta, you know what I mean? And I think that filmmakers probably go through the same thing, right? Where it's like, you're not going to think of a Columbia first, you're not going to think of a Charlotte or a lot of places in North Carolina first. But I come to the conclusion that in order to be here, I'm here deliberately. And we could go to these other cities, do other things, but there's something that's in us that is designed to, we want to be voices for the communities that we're from. So I would ask everyone here, and I would love to hear from the amazing Black women on the panel as well. What are some of the advantages of being in places like the Carolinas that might not be your traditional hotspot for films, but there's something that's here for us? And what are some of the challenges that you guys might see being from the Carolinas?
I can touch on that a little bit. I'm originally from New York, and I moved to the Carolinas about 20 years ago. And at the time, it was a pretty robust industry, at least in North Carolina. And then when they took away the tax incentives, a lot of the productions left. But one thing that was a constant was this groundswell of independent creators. So I think that's something that has always been pretty much consistent. But what I loved about this week and this whole collaboration is that we're neighbors. Mm-hmm. North and South Carolina, we're neighbors. Curtis spoke on this a little bit before. This is something that we should be doing anyway. So one of the things that I enjoyed was the works in progress, because of the fact that you had two filmmakers, one from North Carolina and one from South Carolina. So that was there was a lot of great synergy there. And it's also very inspiring to see filmmakers, practice their craft and be able to have a platform like Sundance to show what you're trying to do. And so I think it was a great thing.
How important is it to have Black voices tell Black stories? Is that something that is deliberate with the work that you guys are doing? That's something that I don't think other people think about, right? Where like you watch a movie and it could be like an all white cast or a white producer or a white writer, and they're like, this is just a story. But when it comes to us, it is always something that is very intentional about us being in a position to tell our own stories. How important is that? Chris, we talked years ago about Women's on Fire and being able to tell those particular stories. How deliberate is that with what we are doing as far as like creatives, and how important is that for you all?
Oh man, I think it's very important, man. That's why I try to do what I do. I love, doing film in the Carolinas. I think honestly, I think we have an advantage over a lot of places, man. I know like where I'm at right now in Durham, it's really a documentary town, you know what I'm saying? So even though I might not be in New York or LA, if you do a documentary and you really build an audience right around here, man, they'll support it. So that's what you really want to do. If you're able to just go to your audience, whether they're in North Carolina, South Carolina or not, I think that's what it's all about. And now the internet can just open the door up, for you to reach other places as well. So, I just over the years, just learned to embrace, where I'm at, you know what I'm saying? And just really just gather the love and support, man, where I'm at and just run with it. But I definitely think it's important, for us to tell our stories. I just see it all the time, man. Even in the literary world, I think is even worse than film, where you see all these books about Black history and culture. It's written by white folks, like all the time. Like I said, I think it's worse in the literary world. But I think it's very important, though, man, that we continue to do it, but also curating the work as well. That's why I've always been supporting, folks like Curtis and Trey, doing what they're doing of curating the work as well, of Black creatives. And I think it's, comes from all fronts, man. It's up to us to make the work. It's up to the curators and the festival to showcase it. And it's up to us as a consumer to support it.
I would say is that I agree. It's totally important that we be able to tell our stories. There's one example here in the plantation, the Middleton plantation. They decided to make a documentary dealing about the ownership of slaves. Instead of getting an African American director to be able to do that documentary, they got a white person to do it, which I felt kind of slighted.
Yeah,
but it's little things like that. I feel that, given the chance, the opportunity, I feel like, unfortunately here in the South, they made money off of the labor, and now they're making money off of the memory, and I think it's
well, to that point, this is kind of an aside, but this is kind of like the same thing that we're talking about. I remember being like, how we call it mixed company, which basically means that there's a white person in the conversation, and you're around Black folks, and there was this white lawyer that was having this conversation, and she was talking about in college she had to read this book about this woman that would go back into time during slavery, and I was like, yeah, that's Octavia Butler, and Kindred. And I'm thinking we're gonna have this moment where she says she loves this book, but anytime a white woman started off a sentence like this, it was really funny. And she said, I know slavery was bad, but, and I'm like nudging my Black friend, like, yo, what's your homegirl about to say? And she was just like, well, some of those, slave owners, they love their slaves and blah, 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 blah. And that was like one of those moments where I'm like, if we're not in charge of telling our stories, you're going to have people trying to change that narrative. Like, oh, what's so bad? you know what I mean? And I think that, even looking at films that were in the festival, Judas and the Black Messiah, I don't know if that movie could have been made 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And being intentional and having these people with the power to tell these stories, it's really important for us to tell this because, the FBI and what they did to Fred Hampton, like we got to be really, really deliberate about talking about what really, really happened. So I guess some of you guys talked about some of the stuff you missed during the festival. That was one of the films I wish I would have seen that I missed. But what were some of the things that you were excited about? And what were some of the things that you guys wish you could have seen, wish you could have done? And if we say Sundance ask your feedback for next year, what are some things that you would want to change?
Preach, can I respond to your previous question?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the first thing is there was one takeaway that I feel like we would be remiss if we don't talk about here, which is I think on the first call that we had as a group, Travis brought up the Carolinas being like the Ellis Island for Black Americans and Black history. And for me, it was so important. So I'm not based in the Carolinas. I'm based in Atlanta. I was raised here. But it's not just, I think when people think about Black film or Black history or our culture, they think it's like we're doing something special by giving you representation or by making your own films or like highlighting your history. When really it's that it's just a better product. It's like, Black film in and of itself gives you something that straight Hollywood films can't give you, films made by other people can't give you. That's why our culture is so in demand and has been extracted for forever, right? And nobody can do it. Nobody else can do it like us. just period. So imagine if, imagine the world without, representing 15 to 20% of the people in the actual world in Black people, right? That's just not, you're not really living, you're not really existing. And then the other thing is that when you're in a place, like I just moved back from New York after being there for 10 years, moving back to Atlanta. And before that, I actually lived in Jamaica. And being outside of these major cities where people tell you you have to live from, for me, it was New York. There's this sort of incubation that happens that allows you that just gives you a different quality and adds depth to the work that you do. So if you take Jamaica, for example, like reggae wouldn't have been reggae if it were made in Brooklyn. I mean, it's now made in Brooklyn, but it's just that incubated in something rich. And so what I find is that when you leave these major cities, LA, Brooklyn, and for me, I try to stay away from, the fancy Negroes in Atlanta. But you get to develop your wealth. Like you develop Black people's wealth is in our networks. It's in our connections. It's in our abilities to revel in like extrasensory experiences, like be present in your body, make use of rhythms and grounding and things like that. And when you're so busy focused on trying to get the attention of funders and institutions, you can't build your wealth. Yeah. And being in these places allows you to really ground in something different. So if we're talking about the richness of the Black history that's in South Carolina and in North Carolina, I mean, that's just like, I just have to think of like Igbo Landing, for example, right? And you're not gonna get that anywhere else.
It's ground
and then
zero.
I'm sorry.
I would say it's ground zero for Black folks and Black culture. Exactly.
Exactly. Or I'm in a book club that's based in Jamaica, and now we're talking a lot about, Gullah Geechee heritage and the connections between that and the Caribbean. And so the last thing I will say is that, like, when you have Black people making Black things, or when you're away from these major cities, you get to ground in the diversity that is Blackness. So like now I'm in conversation with, and I think we all are in conversation with Black people from not only across the US, but across the world. And now we're seeing the varied multitudes of worlds within Blackness and the depth and richness that we haven't built out before. And the use of Sundance, a thing like Sundance coming in is like, okay, now we can tap into the infrastructure strategically to bring this, to birth. But ultimately, when we make our own things, we just make a better product, and a better product that pushes cinema and film itself forward, because we're making things that nobody else is making, like, period. There's no argument to me with that.
Yeah, I think that was a great thing that you talked about with the networking. And I think Issa Rae said this, and I thought it was really great. She said that one of the things that she learned when she was trying to do Awkward Black Girl, she said that when she would talk to like filmmakers, they were always trying to network up, right? They always trying to find somebody that has more connections than them, more money than them. She's like, no, you should network here and find the people that are going kind of through the same struggle as you, and is more open to share those resources. So people that are from different places, do you find like there's a kinship being in the Carolinas where people are more willing to be open to share resources and have your back than other cities that might be, I'm not going to necessarily say more cutthroat, but a lot of the LAs and stuff like that, you hear these stories dealing with like Hollywood or people in the industry. Do you feel this kinship being in the Carolinas that you probably won't get somewhere else?
I would say yes. Me being a founder of the Carolina Film Festival, I met quite a few other film festival owners like Trey and Andrew. And the reason why I'm even in this group and a producer here is because Andrew reached out and told me about this opportunity. And that's just one of many examples of how we stay in touch with each other and have this sense of community. There's different groups in the city where we meet up monthly to talk about things we're working on, different ways we can help network with each other. And Charlotte in particular is very, very well as far as the sense of building each other up. And I think that's a great parallel, what you mentioned, as far as all on the same level. And that's filmmakers, actors, festival owners, I just really sense that here in Charlotte and all through the Carolinas too, but Charlotte in particular. I do sense that with my festival brothers.
What are some of the biggest challenges when working on things being in the Carolinas? Is funding like the number one issue for everyone to like get these ideas out, or are there other like roadblocks that you guys are experiencing that might be specific for being in the Carolinas?
I think for Charlotte in particular, it's space. For the most part, we use museums and places like that, and these places are very expensive to rent. So for me, I think there's a great need for people of color to own spaces, own physical spaces, so that you can do programming, even more programming than we do now. Basically, our festival is a yearly festival, and for myself, I would love to do even more programming, but space is an issue, and I would say that's probably the next thing that we should really concentrate on is collaborating and maybe buying real estate. I know Andrew is doing a fantastic job in South Carolina with that, and but there's a need for more.
Yeah,
Can I piggyback off that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of combining the last question with this one, as far as some of these challenges that we do have here. I definitely, just like Trey said, I mean, I've started making moves to own real estate. Like, we bought a big piece of property and stuff like that to create a space for creatives to actually have an opportunity to have our own little world of diversity and just inclusion all together. But one of the things that, and I have to say this, one of the things that inspired me to do that is the fact that I have to face reality of where I am with certain gatekeepers that are here. That which is a big challenge for us when it comes to funding, when it comes to acknowledgement, when it comes to accessibility. There's a lot of gatekeepers that have been here. Not to say that they've been here longer than us or anything else like that. Not to even say that it's an us versus them type of thing. It's just the fact that there's always this narrative that we have to try harder or prove ourselves just to gain access to the spaces that other gatekeepers already have access to. And that, in my eyes, is one of the biggest challenges that we have here, especially in Columbia, which I would venture to say that that's a big problem all over the Carolinas. Historically, we're not known as a film mecca or as a mecca of collaboration that you would see in bigger cities like New York, LA, Atlanta, and other big cities to some degree. When people think about film, they don't think about the Carolinas, not unless they're a part of it, or unless they, have something to do with it, indirectly. But generally speaking, people don't come here to make it, so to speak. And that's exactly what those spaces, like Trey was saying, are for. That we need. We need access to those spaces so that we don't have to leave anywhere or feel any desire to go anywhere to make it. Because in our essence of the word, we can do it right here. Like, we can make it here. Our dreams were created here. So why are we not creating the space here to make those dreams flourish into our reality? And again, that's the reason why we're doing the things that we're doing. And that's the reason why we're all here right now. And so that we can create those opportunities and create those spaces for people in the future. Because we're not thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about the people that we're collaborating with. We're thinking about the upcoming filmmakers that we inspire, or that we can inspire and move forward with. And that's ultimately who, after meeting all of you here and working with all of you here during this project, I can honestly say and be proud of saying that these are some of the most selfless people I've ever met. Like, they are literally doing these things so that others can have opportunities. And I'm just embracing that. But yeah, I gotta face the reality.
Is it a policy issue here that we think that if we look at, I think we were speaking earlier about incentives that certain cities was getting, whereas television station or shows and films are getting tax breaks and things like that. So is it something that's policy based, that if there's like someone that isn't a creative, that's just an appreciator of Black art, and they say, what can I do? Is it talk to the congressman about trying to get, tax breaks to make, what was the show that was shot in Charlotte and they stopped shooting, like Homeland and stuff like that? Like, is it something that's from a policy level that would help, or to the average person that wants to contribute? What would you guys say would be a need that we can tell the public to get behind?
Well, I know a lot of people here that again are behind the lens, so to speak, are fighting for raise incentives for film here. But as far as the average person, that wants to get involved in things like that, again, it's between access, or should I say accessibility, and just knowing, just being able to know that these things are going on here. Like us doing this event, let more people know that there is a film community here. Like, people don't know that the film community is here. As much as we can spend on advertising and promoting and things like that, there's interaction that we need to have with our communities that can actually bring the attention to film here. So, like I said, I know other filmmakers that are here in the same conversation that can speak on, on their experiences, on their own productions, where they can go out there in any neighborhood, any location or anything like that, and just tell people, hey, I'm shooting a film, I'm shooting a short, I'm shooting a documentary, I'm shooting a feature, and people just jump on it. They're like, oh man, I want to be involved. How can I get involved? Can I be in it? This, that, and the third. So it's like, as soon as the more people that know, and the more accessible space that we have to do these things, like Trey said, then I think that we can build on that and we can grow from there.
I would like to add to that. I feel one of the only other things, and all those things are true, absolutely. But I feel one of the other issues is that, and this happens everywhere, where I just feel people have like an utter lack of imagination. And I'm not talking necessarily about the creatives, although in some spaces them too. So not the lack of imagination to create, but then just like really understanding like how film can be accessed and where it can be seen and where it can be shown. That it's just, they don't feel like it should only be in a movie theater and that's the only way you can access a film, or it should only be like on a Netflix or Amazon or something like that, which is wrong, because film is where the people are, the imagination, creativity is where the people are. So and it's not easy, none of this is easy, but if you bring the film, if you bring the media, if you bring all those things to where the folks are, and then you show them that, it can be shown anywhere and that people can access it in multiple spaces, then people will be able to appreciate it. But if they're unable to see it, just because you only have these lofty expectations of having it be in a particular place, then, that's going to be a problem, So I think, a lack of imagination for where we can access these things is also a big issue. And like I said, that's not just here in the Carolinas, that's everywhere. I'm kind of in New York, I'm kind of in other places, peers of mine who do programming all across the world have seen that. But, but in places like here where there is a smaller film community, it's an even bigger problem. So like when we were trying to do our drive-ins, we had a hell of a time finding a space just because people just didn't understand what we wanted to do. And you would think it's easy, but it's not. And you would think it's easy to understand, but it's not, just because they don't want to envision it.
Yeah, I guess that also leads to the other thing that I was thinking when you're saying that films is where the people are. This has been a challenging year where you see, things that would traditionally be in theater, all of a sudden, like HBO Max is like, all right, we're just going to put stuff out through here, and this is some of that I think is COVID based, But I don't know how things are going to go back to normal with having like your traditional, big theaters and having people in there like they used to be. As filmmakers, does anything like that, what's going on with technology and going on with the pandemic, does that, is there any pause for your work and how you proceeding with it? If you're basically like, usually if I put a movie out, I want to do a screening and I can't do those anymore. Have you guys adjusted to that, or is it something that you think will change in the near future?
Well, I know for us and CineOdyssey, I sort of foresaw. Well, I didn't foresee the pandemic, but I had planned to do more virtual screenings anyway, even before the pandemic, because when you look at the plethora of platforms that started popping up, the Hulus, and of course, Netflix is a big, is a big player. When you see all of those platforms popping up, and you're in our case, we're not Sundance, so we have to be creative in finding ways to reach even more greater audiences. And we're actually in a pretty good space by doing these events virtually, because we're reaching audiences now that we wouldn't have reached before. So in a big way, this has sort of been bittersweet, but it's also allowed us to think of things in a different way, and how we present our events, and utilizing the technology that has been there for a while.
I think a lot of new technology supports people at the margins, and the more established it becomes, the more susceptible the technology is to control by gatekeepers and like well-established institutions. So, that's the whole reason Sundance reached out to organizations like the Luminal, because we had a connection to audiences that they couldn't mimic or replicate, right? So, and this I've been, plugging this whole week as we've been sitting in panels and stuff. Like, Curtis and I just finished a strategic plan, and in doing that, I went through the past 5 or 6 years of our work. And that's when it really kind of hit me, like, what we're doing is amazing. I've been telling people, we've done sidewalk screenings in Brooklyn, screen something on the side of a building and just put out chairs on the sidewalk. And, Curtis reminded me, there was a woman on her stoop across the street, like, screaming at, screaming at the film. We've done, we do, cinema garden parties when we're in person every year. Cinema block parties, where there's a block in Brooklyn where all the businesses were owned by Black people and majority Black women, and they would put on a block party every summer. And the last time Curtis did a cinema block party and set up a VR tent in the middle of the street, with the glasses and the whole setup. And during that block party also there were screenings in basketball courts. We have done we've also done like screenings on like 360 projection walls. Like I think that in focusing and platforming people who are marginalized, that folk forget that our marginalization forces us to be more creative, forces us to do things better, forces us to hustle. So streaming platforms actually, at least right now, can help us democratize until, the bigger institutions kind of get their stuff together, unfortunately, and figure out another way to dominate. But I will also say that Black creatives are struggling everywhere, like across the world. It's not just in the Carolinas, it's not just in the South. The only difference is in Brooklyn and LA, you can see the other groups having access to what you need. Like you can see it, it's really close, but they still won't give it to you, and you're still struggling to get it. So I want us to the reason I do what I do, the reason why I work with Curtis and Sashawna is because once you can figure out how to conceive of art and wealth in another way, so when Curtis talks about lack of imagination, we've so boxed art into like this consumption model and this model of expertise and this model of whiteness, that if you can bust out of it, there's so much you can do. There's so much you can be bringing to people. There's so much you can be doing for yourself. And there's just, again, you just make the field better. You make the quality of the product or, the artwork better. Filmmakers are working better, creating better things. It's what do we value and why is really, really, really important, because we're not lacking. We might be lacking monetarily, but we can still put different things together to arrive at what we were hoping for.
And the other reality behind it is that multiple things, but keying on people see the genuineness of what you're doing. They can see that it's coming from an honest place. There's always going to be people who won't rock with you, who won't like what you're doing, who will say it's corny. But the reality is, a lot of the big organizations, a lot of the huge film organizations, and even some of the big art houses, we're used to doing things a certain way, and a pandemic happened. And then they ended up doing things the way a lot of the smaller organizations would do, like whether you want to call it like a guerrilla style or whatever, they I don't say reverted, but they end up emulating the work that a lot of okay, yeah, let's call it what it is, right? They started jacking the work of what a lot of us do, and it's like, and all of a sudden it's revolutionary. Yeah. All of a sudden it makes sense, right? And so, that's why if you're doing things from like a genuine and honest place, just keep doing it from that genuine and honest place. And, obviously you still have a lot of work to do behind it, and you still have to make it right and do it as well as possible. But, the fruits of the labor will manifest, especially if you connect with, make sure to connect with the right folks who are like-minded and will roll with you and support you, through and through.
Well, to touch on that, right, I think it's really interesting where we get into this thing where we always, the self-doubt as an artist, I go through it a bunch, right? And we always think that we're not somewhere that we want to be because maybe I'm not good enough, maybe this isn't enough. And you're around the people that look like they have their stuff figured out, or they have the money behind it, and they're just like mad corny, right? Like, and so the idea of having to be creative because we can't just turn around and get something funded immediately. I think that's an amazing asset that is so hip hop culture, so Black culture, of creating something out of the need to want to create, because we have to do it. So my question I would have is kind of more philosophical, is that I know we've probably all gone through this, where you're like, you know what, man, I'm going to get a job at, Verizon answering phones or something like that. What keeps you all creating, where I know it's an uphill battle, I know it gets frustrating, I know that, things like Sundance is a small portion of validation of being able to have something with this international name and have your name attached to it. Like, there's some gravitas to it, right? I tell my mama I'm doing something with Sundance. Oh, wow. She knows it, and my mama watching the Tyler Perry movies. That's on the disc to my mama. I love you, mama. But, but what are the things that keep you guys going? And was there a definitive moment where you hit that crossroad where you're like, I'm done with this?
So I'm not going to give this a full answer. I'd rather someone else answer, but I just want to say that if you need to take that job at Verizon and all that, ain't no shame in it as an artist to have to do it. If you have to do it, you have to do it for X amount of time, And I know you're not saying that shouldn't be the case. I'm just being
I got an
OnlyFans
page. I made $10, so I get it. I'm playing.
I was hoping so. You're like Umar Johnson or something. You playing? Okay. Anyway, someone else please answer.
I gotta. Oh, go ahead.
I think as a creative person, this time just gives people an opportunity to kind of pave your own way and create opportunities for yourself and, you know, for others around you. And considering what the standard was before, like, you know, we can't follow that model anymore. So it gives people an opportunity to create a new standard and basically just learn and grow from that and kind of develop that more. So I don't necessarily look at right now as a bad time. I just think it's a new time to create, you know, it's like a genesis all over again. And yeah, I kind of just approach it like that, from a positive place, and just instead of looking at everything that we've lost, looking at all of the opportunity that is available with this new version of the world that we're living in right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like I have to do this. I'm sorry, what?
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I think what keeps me going is just the genuine passion that I have for our craft, for like being a creative. I'm also a musician, music producer, and I also shoot film. Not on aside of me being a founder of a film festival, so it's like I pretty much have an inner fire. So like even if everything else fell around me, the pandemic, or if it was the whole city was flooded, I would still have my camera shooting something, probably make a documentary about it. I would still have my keyboard playing, making something, creating. Like there's nothing that can stop me. So it's something that I feel like we all are very blessed that we know what we're passionate about instead of just walking around as souls who have no idea what we're putting this earth for. We all know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And if we're not doing that, we literally feel like we have our arms cut off. So it's like, if I'm not able to create and be able to walk in my space, I feel like I'm not doing what God has made me to do. So that's what keeps me going. So even if I had a part-time job or a full-time job, no matter what I'm doing, I'm always have my mind focused on being better in my craft. So that's for my answer on that.
Kind of piggybacking off of what he said, like what I was basically about to say was that I feel like I have to. You know, I have 4 kids that are in school, and you know, I got 1 kid in college, and I look at the societal norms that they see and that they learn from and that they experience, and I look at what it's done to their mental health and to their emotional health, and you know, I know that they have their own passions, and pretty much all of them have some sort of artistic, you know, standpoint. And I feel like the things that I do not only provide opportunities for people that are looking to express themselves better, but, you know, like I said, with my kids, they see the things that I do and they say, man, I can see where I can take my passion and make something of it. Like, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I don't have to succumb to whatever these societal norms are that I'm being told is what I should or have to do. You know, so beyond just trying to inspire my own children and inspire other people, you know, I feel like, especially when I look at, like, I consider myself, you know, like to be always my brother and my sister's keeper. I always say this as a story, and I know this is a little personal, but I look at my life 12 years ago, and I was homeless, you know, and going from homeless to where I am now, from being a disabled veteran and doing it through art and things like that, like, it's an opportunity. This has provided my family and myself with therapy as an occupational therapy, you know, and I look at other people that are out there that are struggling, especially through this pandemic, and they've lost their jobs and they're trying to find a new hustle and this, that, and the third. And all the while I've been advocating for them. I've been advocating through film. I've been doing art, and I've also been employing people and providing opportunities for them to do something that can keep them moving forward and also be inspired to do something that may even be more comfortable to them than what they were already doing. So like I feel like this is something that I feel, and just like Ollie was saying, it's like it's in my spirit. If I wasn't specifically doing something else, like I would always be doing this because this is a part of who I am. So I feel like I have to do this. Like I feel like I'm empowered to do this because of the necessity to do this as well.
What keeps me going is, I want to see us win, in a major way. When you see how far we've come in less than 20 years, I mean, there was a time when filmmaking was just for people who had money, people who had the resources to go to the top film schools, and film used to be literally shot on film. When I started in this business, film was shot on film. So there wasn't a lot of people of color shooting film. And look how far we've come, in less than 20 years. One of the categories we have in our festival is films that are shot on mobile devices. So there's really no excuse now for, even if you don't have a professional camera, you could whip out your phone and get an app somewhere and shoot content. So for me, it's personal because for us being locked out for so long, I just want to see us win.
Just to, again, to piggyback on what Trey said, I definitely want to see us win. In my personal, my father, I lost him in 2019. He, all his life, would take photos, he would shoot a lot of stuff in Super 18. And he didn't have this is before, he didn't know about Oscar Micheaux, or this is before Gordon Parks. So he always wanted to be a filmmaker, but there was no one around that looked like him to let him know that he can do it. And I think that's the reason why we got to do it, is to be that signpost and to let people know that, hey, it's possible. To be able to tell those stories, and if not this generation, the next generation, the same way that they went in herds to go and see Black Panther, the same way that everyone went to go and vote for Barack, they have to see it and to be able to feel like they're being heard and their stories are being told.
I have a question. I think this is if anybody else wasn't going ahead. I thought it's something really interesting, right? I was looking at the Golden Globes, and Regina King, I love her to death. And I think, is she an EGOT person? Did she win everything yet? I don't know, but she's won a bunch of stuff. And I saw something that was saying that she's the first Black woman nominated for Best Director. And I was saying to myself, it's 2021 and we still have first that's still going on with Black people in film, Black people in arts. So I wonder if the Academy was listening to this conversation, or if Sundance was talking to studios, or let's say they're listening to this conversation as Black creatives, what would we want to tell them to do?
I don't I don't wait for anybody, so I like the folks at Sundance. I like Academy Award winning films, but at the end of the day, it's about what we're doing here, And so, I mean, firsts are cool and all, but I don't really care about firsts. I care about second and thirds and fifths.
Absolutely, agreed. Yeah.
Maybe that's why I got some weight on me too. But but I don't care about that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about how we continue to do the things we do, and how we bring others along to do so. So like, if you cared about first, and if you want to go by the Academy, I mean, you have like, what Halle Berry won like back in 2002 for that horrible movie, as Best Actress, and then has another Black woman even won since? I can't even remember. But So what does that even mean? You know, it doesn't, at the end of the day, it means nothing. So it's really about us putting ourselves and doing our things for ourselves and for our community. Because, you know, all the programmers in here can definitely agree, and the filmmakers as well. Like when you get to show, and actually, Ronnie Nicole Henderson said this really well on our Redefining Carolina film panel. When you get in front of our audiences, right, and you present your film, and you know, 9 times out of 10, a Black filmmaker is making a film for their folks, you know, for the people, for their immediate audience. You want everybody to like it and see it, but you're making it for a particular audience. Cool. That's when you really find out the power of your film. That's why I got into programming, is when I understood that power. I thought I understood it before, but like being able to present a film, not my own film, mind you, being able to present someone else's film even in front of people who get it, you know, and laugh at the jokes the right way, and you know, all those positive things you want them to get out of your joint. That's really where the power is, you know. So it's not really in that whole Hollywood mystique. It's good to get there and all, you know, but I mean, you mentioned Issa Rae earlier. I mean, you know, we was cool like when she was in New York, and I remember her when she moved back to LA. She moved back to LA because, you know, New York was too expensive, and she went to go live with her back with her family and whatnot. And that's when she got to like be free and create, you know? And that actually comes back to the essence of, you know, us doing this entire thing. It's like that return home, you know? Travis said it really well in our planning meetings, you know, and Jacqui mentioned this too. It's, you know, here in the Carolinas, you know, this is the birthplace of the African-American story. And, you know, we kind of use that as our theme, which is called Before Us, where it's just like, this is, you know, we're working on the legacies, but that legacy is also what builds our future. And so, you know, Hollywood is cool and all, but we don't need Hollywood. It's nice, but it's not the world, right? It's not even really right in front of us. And most of us probably would get there. Ronnie said this too, actually, on that same panel, because she was in LA for a while too. It's like, it's not, you know, depending on who you are and how you flow, it's not really for you. So yeah, man, it's just, you know, we don't need that. I'd rather, and I like to, like, because I know our time is a little short now, like really just like be congratulatory about, you know, who we are and what we do, and focus on that, you know, for real.
Preach. Can I bring something in?
Yeah.
I would also challenge a little paradigm shift of that question. Because actually the Academy actually done a few things lately the past few years. They implemented a new diversity and inclusion rules for Best Picture starting last year. There's like 4 different types. Like there have to be some person of color involved with the production. It's for complex. I can't go through all right now, but I would put more challenge on the actual production companies like WB, because the Academy, they're going off what's given to them and find out what's best. What we don't want is, we don't want participation trophies, of course. We want what we do be honored in something that was worth it. What we need is WB, Sony, we need them to give more opportunities for Black filmmakers so that they can have the opportunity for Academy to be shown to them. Right now, there's just not, you know, we're not really given the opportunity from the production companies. That's why we're not really getting to the chance to get to the academies.
Kind of to piggyback on what Curtis said, it's kind of cringy to me when in the year 2021, where we hear the first Black person to do XYZ. I think that it is putting Black creatives, and specifically filmmakers, into mixing them into a category that is not their own. So it's hard to compare like different points of views and different stories, because they're not held necessarily to the same standard. So I just think I think Solange made a tweet one time about something, I think where she was passed over for a Grammy, and it says something like, let's create our own, you know, awards and celebrate our community and celebrate our friends and things, you know, just like other communities do, because it's like you are trying to place yourself in a position where you don't necessarily fit. So.
I mean, the first Black anything, the first queer anything, the first trans anything, like that's really actually supporting, that's really about giving that's really actually more about white people than us, right?
Make
like
them
that's
feel better. Yeah.
That's what makes them feel better.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I really just kind of keep trying to hammer home, for people who are not usually in our creative spaces, is when, when Curtis says a thing like, we don't need a Sundance, like it's not, forget y'all don't care about us. It's not out of spite. It's not out of vengeance. It's that we're so used to defining our value in comparison to some institution, some white thing. And we really don't understand how deep it goes that we are not ready to make ourselves a value-based proposition, or just say, what do I need, period? You know what I mean? We are taught and so deeply socialized to think, well, first I have to get to a Sundance, or first I have to get here, or first I have to get there, that we're cutting off ourselves, especially because those institutions are set up to see us as incompetent, as negligible, as illegible, as all of these things. Like it really just doesn't serve us to be in conversation with them. And so, much of the time we are, we are expending our resources trying to get in contact with and get recognized by these organizations, rather than expending the resources on the thing itself or on our communities itself. And I've been waiting to say this entire week, but I also really want to highlight the models that we work under. So, we're talking about these sort of big, 10,000 foot things, when really at the end of the day, we're operationalizing a different way of doing it. We got this week done. We got, a lot done, a lot more done than many of the organizations that we were working alongside in other cities. Like we got it done as a group of Black people. I didn't know anybody else besides Curtis and Sashawna before what, at the end of November, when we had our first planning meeting. And we got a lot of great programming out to our audiences. And it was a group of Black people who used a community organizing model, what we call cultural organizing. And for me, this was like very seamless. And I want people to see us as a group of Black folk who came together, who did get a little bit of shine from Sundance, but still kept our heads down, did the worked together, communicated well, and got it done. Because, we hear a lot about crabs in a barrel, and I'm not saying that's not real, but I also want us to see and recognize and value when we do work together, and when we do work together well, and what it looked like. And so when Ali suggested this panel, I was like, that's fantastic, because we do have to be making it transparent that there are other modes of doing it, and not only other modes of doing it, but other modes that serve us better. So we could have been petitioning Sundance to let this happen, or, you could be Curtis and say, well, let me get 5-6 other people in the Carolinas together, and then they think of Preach Jacobs, and then they think of Ali, and they think of Trey, and they think of all these other people to bring in, and allowed us to just produce so much more substance than a lot of our peers were doing, who just didn't bring a coalition together.
I think, and I'll be quick with this, when you look at the best and the brightest that represent us as filmmakers and film producers and film collectives, the Denzel Washingtons and the Spike Lee and people like that get passed over for these awards all the time. So for me, it sort of crystallized why, while those awards are important on some level, we shouldn't use them as a measuring stick to validate, our art anymore. There was a gentleman in the chat, Sydney Moore, that put a question in: does the NAACP Image awards count. Damn right they do.
Absolutely. Anybody, I know we have to get out in a second. Anybody have any parting thoughts?
Well, I just want to, before we go and before we lose any more attendees, because it is getting a little late, I just really want to thank everybody here on this panel that helped put this together. I mean, I hope I don't get teary, but I'm just like really proud of the work that we put out there. I mean, it just started going on. I'll just go down the list of what I see on the side. And actually, I'll start with you, Preach, because the music that you led to open up our days, especially, was really instrumental in just like getting the day started for everybody. You know, a lot of people outside of the Carolinas I'm talking about too, really appreciated it. You know, so you know, thank you first of all for hosting this and for also getting us on our way with you know some really soulful stirrings. It was really beautiful to be able to present that. And I just want to let you know personally, like, and publicly, that people really loved it and that we loved it as well. So thank you.
Thank y'all for having me. Don't ever ask me, tell me. If you ever need something.
Fair enough. And you know, Andrew was, you know, with me at the screenings and on the ground, and was so instrumental in doing so many things and suggesting. I mean, a lot of stuff went around. I can't remember everyone who suggested every single thing off the top of my head, but you know, Andrew was the first person I called when outside of Luminal staff, was the first person I called when we got this opportunity to see if he wanted to work on it, and I'm glad he was able to, and that, you know, that he and his family were able to like sacrifice their time and to help for this. So Andrew, I mean, I can't really thank you enough, bro. So thank you for that. And
Man,
for,
the honor is all mine.
Sponsor.
The honor is
Sorry?
all mine. The honor is all mine. Seriously.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
Absolutely. And Chris, man, Christopher Everett, I mean, we've been working together for almost a year now on our Black Docs program. He's been my brother even from before that. And thank you for helping put together that Works in Progress panel. That was tight. People really loved it. And just help, you know, lending your ear and your expertise and everything. It was indispensable, man. So thank you. Trey, I only met once before we did this. I met him, it was around this time last year or something? I can't even remember. But Trey, thank you for all your knowledge, man, for all your wisdom, for helping us organize so many of these things and our Q&As and all that. Our Q&As were really cool. Some other people did some too. I think we did some of the better ones, honestly. I'm not just saying that because, you know, been going around and looking. And so thank you, man. Thank you for everything that you provided. Travis, man, you know, helped us with our Charleston screenings. I know they could have gone better, but I'm glad we tried it because we were trying to help build a bigger and more authentic film community here in the Carolinas. And so I thank you for that, man, and for keeping us inspirational and keeping us on message. I mean, when you said birthplace of African-American story, I mean, it's funny. It's something we kind of know, but, you know, it needs to be said more. So I'm glad you said that and you kept coming with all these gems and even with the Before Us theme. So thank you, man. I mean, you're, you know, once again, I just can't really thank you enough for all the hard work you did. Especially same with you, Oliver, man. I mean, the music interludes that you did, that people really appreciate seeing that in the theater and hearing it. We actually had to, on Monday, I think you remember, Andrew, we had to turn down the volume because it was a little too high with one of the singers. It was Tiffany J. But she was like blowing out eardrums, and so we had to turn down the music and everything. It was a beautiful thing.
it was great to have those songs stuck in my head still.
Yeah, right. It was really dope. So thank you, man, for lending that and for helping coming up with the idea for this, like Jacqui just said, for this panel, because we should congratulate ourselves. And so I want to make sure to publicly take the time to congratulate all of you. And then of course, Sashawna. Thank you for on the back end, like helping to organize so much of this. I could not have done this without you, seriously. And for hosting that really dope Ailey panel. It's the first time you moderated something. I'm glad we threw you out there to make you do it. And, you know, I'm glad we made it happen. People have been watching it. I hope they've been enjoying it. So thank you for all your hard work. And Jacqui, you always have my back. I love you. Thank you for everything. I can't even go down the list of stuff to thank you for. So I'm just gonna say thank you for everything that you contributed toward this event and more. So I don't think I forgot anybody, right? No. Okay, good.
Jesus. Where's Jesus?
Well, this is not an award show, so when the Academy relaxes their rules, according to Oliver, then I can get on there and thank Jesus. But yeah, I just wanted to say that before we departed, before anybody else left. Thank you all immensely.
Anybody else have any parting thoughts?
Oh, I just want to.
The only thing. Oh, go ahead.
Just want to quickly say thank you, Curtis, for the opportunity. It was nice meeting you, Jacqui, Sashawna, Preach, Trey, and Andrew. It was of course, Chris, I've known ahead of time, but it was great working with you. Just the opportunity and reminding me that if I got sugar and you got ice and you got water and we sitting there talking about we're thirsty, we need to put our stuff together and make some drinks. So I really appreciate that.
See, Travis stays dropping these like gems, man. I love that.
It's not,
God, I love it. I'm not good like that,
That sugar water.
Yeah.
Oh, and lemon. I'm sorry. And lemon. There's some lemon.
Oh man.
That's actually the same thing. Similar to what I was going to say. I was just going to say that just like y'all was speaking before about this is things that we should have already been doing. I just want to continue that same energy and just moving forward, keep these connections. Do more things. Like I said, I know that Trey has a film festival. I know Ali has a film festival. I have a film festival. These collaborations mean everything. The inclusion that we want can only happen if we actually do it, and include each other in those efforts. And I think that ultimately is why this event was successful. And I think pushing that success forward, I just want to extend my gratitude and my appreciation. And I just want to say that, everything that I do is yours. And I want to just collaborate as much as we can moving forward. And let's do it again.
And thanks Sundance.
Oh yeah, them too.
We got
absolutely. Thank you, Sundance.
But that's
we got a sister running things, right?
Yeah.
The program director is a sister, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
she definitely. This probably was her idea to do these satellite programming. So big up to her. This was amazing, working with you guys, and let's keep this going, man.
I'm sorry.
I just want to say thank you for everything to everyone, all of your wonderful ideas, and just watching this thing grow into this, successful event from our first meeting. And I was like, oh, this is a long shot, but we found a way to pull it off. And thank you for just helping me grow as a creative person. And yeah.
I can't say it enough. Like, this is just like, it just really was. It's just so, it just makes you so full to be able to work with Black people and work well. But the other thing that I think is just really worth mentioning is in our first meeting, we asked like, what is Carolina film? So, the Carolina, film scene is not out here getting perfect attendance awards, like here, just give you your cookies. Like when you think of the biggest Black films of the past couple decades, Daughters of the Dust is up there, and Black Panther with Chadwick Boseman is up there, and you have Teyana Parrish. And when we probably spent a good, I was the note taker in the meeting, so this is why I remember all of this. We've probably spent a good 30, 45 minutes just coming up with top tier folks, top tier work out of the Carolinas. So it's not like, you overlook the Carolinas and the South generally, and Black people as well, to your own detriment. Like, it's high quality stuff that we don't need you to give us like special you don't need to give special recognition for. Like, it's really, really impactful stuff. So, I just want us to remember to never sell ourselves short. And I didn't know if a group of, 8 different Black people, from, the Carolinas could come together, like Sashawna said, maybe for a different reason. It felt like a long shot, and especially with how many events we were coming up with. But really, like, the value, the talent, the heart, the will, the tenacity, and just the willingness to just hustle and get it done, it's just a gem.
Where's my Kleenex?
I don't have a Kleenex, but I do want to raise a glass to everybody. Congrats again. There goes Vader. There we go. Congrats, y'all. Thank you for everything. And I'm sorry. I keep just saying that congratulations and thank you, but that's what it is. So
no, thank you. We're gonna throw it back at you. Thank you. So
yes,
you're the RZA and we're the rest of the Wu-Tang Clan. So
I will take that. That's esteemed territory.
If everyone is done, I wanted to say, I'm really, really deliberate about telling stories and being a Black man from the South. I'm really deliberate about that. My grandmother passed away a couple of years ago, and we had this really great conversation before she passed, that when she was a little girl, she lived with her great grandmother, and it was an enslaved woman. And that thought of we're 1 degree separated from someone that's enslaved, you just put everything in perspective. And I told myself that everything that I would do after my grandmother passed, I said, everything that I write and everything that I do is love letters to the ancestors. So I share that with you guys now, that anything that we do, being voices of communicating, telling our stories, and telling the stories of people that look like us, you're doing God's work. And I want to also extend to everyone, this shouldn't be the last time we talk to each other. I don't want us to catch up next year at the same time. You know what I mean? So everybody, let's follow everyone. My name is Priest Jacobs on Instagram. If y'all need anything at all, I'm always here. And I thank you guys so much. And I thank everyone that's tuning in. This is my way of kind of closing it out. This is the We Did That podcast.
Preach, I gotta say one more thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, and thank you for that great close. And I just jacked up your close.
I'm working on it, man.
I know. It was perfect though. Real talk.
I brought up my grandma.
Exactly right. You can't invoke grandma. So I apologize. But I was very remiss in thanking the audience for all coming out and supporting, and the people who are attending these panels and everything. But also big, huge thank you to my man Torres Perkins, who's making us look good here on video and Zoom, and did so as well for a bunch of our other Q&As and our other panels. Thank you, Torres. You're my brother too, man. So always so great to work with you, and thank you for all that you do and being a solid person. So thank you. Appreciate you, man. And but especially do want to thank the audience and really thank Sundance for giving us this opportunity to get on a different stage. And last thing, because we're very over. No, to what you said though. Because I also remember this from what you just said about making sure that we all stay in touch. A beautiful thing that happened is that a lot of the people that we had on our first panel, all creatives on our Redefining Carolina film panel, have made sure, like literally right after that conversation, said we have to stay in touch, and met that next week and continue to want to meet. A lot of people that we all met at the live screenings and in some of our other panels have been like, we have to make sure to stay in touch and build this network even better. So to all of y'all, and hope y'all watch this if you haven't been here live watching it, to let's continue to build and grow. That's all. And that's what I'd like to add. So continue to build and grow.
All right. And another thing my grandmama said, I'm kidding. Yo, I go by the name of Priest Jacobs. Thank you to everybody on this panel. This has been a black panel, and I appreciate all of it. I love all of it. This is the We Did That panel. Please salute to everyone here. Drink what's in your glass. And everybody, I'm about to make myself a sandwich. Thank y'all all for checking us out. Peace and one love.